You thought things would calm down after the blow of promotion? Think again! While some NFC East teams are still wasting time, Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are cooking up something that could completely flip the identity of this defense. We're talking about a defensive coordinator, turn Frankie Louvu into a tackling machine, and get our secondary playing with the kind of aggression we've all been dying to see. And that's not all. There are interview moves happening that are checking league boxes while building the perfect staff. 3 explosive updates that are going to shape what this... And I'm telling you right now, if you miss what's coming, you'll be talking about it all off-season without knowing what hit you. News 1. Patrick Graham, the light box system that changes everything. Let me tell you something I've been thinking ever since this info leaked. Patrick Graham, this guy is exactly what we need. And once you hear what his system can do with the players we already have, you'll understand why I believe this is the smartest move we could make. You know what frustrated me the most watching this defense in 2025? Seeing Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu trying to fight off guards, watching Darren Payne battling 2 offensive linemen at once, trying to do the impossible while carrying a cap hit of $28 million. And you know what? That ends if Graham comes here. Here's something technical, but crucial. Both the Commanders and the Raiders under Graham used light. What does that mean? It means fewer than 7 defenders in the immediate box near the line of scrimmage. But here's the massive difference that changes everything. We did it with 3-man fronts, 3 down linemen. Graham does it with 4. You get what that 1 extra guy up front completely changes the control at the line of scrimmage. With 4 down linemen, our linebackers get clean lanes to fly through and make plays. Look at what happened with Robert Spillane under Graham. This linebacker had never, then suddenly puts up 148 in his first year with Graham and 158 in the second. Coincidence? Nope. That's a system that frees up linebackers instead of asking them to be superheroes. Now picture Frankie Louvu in that system. A linebacker who's already now flying through clean gaps because Darren Payne is holding down his one-on-one assignment instead of getting doubled every damn snap. You don't want to see that. I think Louvu could easily hit 140-plus tackles in this scheme. And let's talk about Darren Payne, because his cap hit for 2026 is $28 million. 28! You think we can keep that without a restructure? But here's the masterstroke. If Graham comes in and shows Payne a system where he gets more one-on-one chances, where he can dominate instead of just survive, then convincing him to take an extension that drops that hit to 15, because Payne will see the benefit. He'll understand that in this system, he can be the beast we all know he is. No more fighting 2 linemen every snap. No more being the silent hero whose stats don't show the grind. In Graham's system, Payne shines, and that helps everyone. And this kid isn't built to take on double teams all day. We know that. But in a 4-man front where he's getting one-on-one matchups, where he can use his speed and technique instead of just brute strength, Newton could become a legit 3-down contributor. You don't want to see that development? But here's what the secondary. Because while Quinn is known for loving cover 3, that deep 3 zone look, Graham has had way more success running 2 high safety looks. And you know what that allows? Aggression. Pure aggression from our corners. Think about it. When you've only got 1 deep safety, that DB has to... That leads to softer coverage. Corners playing scared because if they mess up, there's no safety net. But with 2 deep safeties, our corners can press, get physical, take risks to jump routes because they know there's help behind them. Mike Sainristil playing aggressive press coverage. Quan Martin in his final rookie contract year showing why he deserves an extension. You don't want to see that defense? Because when I hear Dan Quinn talk about what he wants this defense to be, he always says the same thing. Physical, fast, fearless. And I ask you this, a soft 3-man front with cover 3 or a 4-man front that frees up linebackers and lets corners play aggressive with 2 safeties deep? The answer is obvious. And here's what excites me most. Graham is the first confirmed interview, but he's already setting the bar so high that anyone who comes on... And honestly, after digging into all this, after seeing how perfectly his system fits our personnel and Quinn's philosophy, I think it's going to be hard to find someone better. Picture the full transformation. Payne dominating one-on-ones. Luvu flying around with 140-plus tackles. Seinristil locking up in press coverage, all while lowering Payne's cap hit and freeing up money for free agency. You think it's a coincidence Graham was the first interview? I'm telling you, Dan Quinn and Adam Peters know exactly what they're doing. They see what I see, a system that's not just different. And if Graham takes this job, if he brings that light box system with 4 down linemen and 2 deep safeties, then buckle up, because this defense is going to look completely different in 2026. And I don't mean minor tweaks, I mean a full-on identity shift, because after years of watching this defense struggle in the wrong scheme, we might finally have the right coordinator with the right system at the right time. And that, my friends, is what separates championship teams from teams that just talk about it. News 2. Denard Wilson, checking the Rooney Rule and building the perfect staff. Now let me break down something that happened on Saturday. The Commanders interviewed Denard Wilson, the Titans' defensive coordinator. And with that interview, Washington officially satisfied the NFL's Rooney Rule. For those who might not be familiar, the Rooney Rule requires teams to interview at least 2 external minority candidates, either in person or with Wilson being the third known interviewee, along with Patrick Graham and Joe Cullen. The Commanders are now cleared to hire their next defensive coordinator as soon as they lock in their guy. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't just about checking a league box. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, and there are very specific reasons why Wilson is on this list. First, let's address the obvious. The Titans were bad in 2025. They finished 21st in total defense and 28th in points allowed. Those are rough numbers, and naturally, in fact, it recently came out that he won't even be getting an interview for the Titans' head coaching job. So why are the Commanders bringing him in? I'll tell you why. Because you have to look deeper than just one season's stats. Denard Wilson has an elite track record, and I'm not exaggerating. This guy was part of defenses that finished top 3 against the pass in 3 straight seasons. As DB's coach with the Eagles in 2022, with the Ravens in 2023, and then as DC with the Titans in 2024. You know how hard it is to maintain that level of excellence. That's not luck. That's process. That's a coach who knows how to develop young talent and put his guys in position to succeed. And let's talk about the players he's developed, because this list is legit. Kyle Hamilton, one of the best safeties in the league right now. Reed Blankenship in Philly, another safety who's become a solid starter. And here's the one that really stands out, Jamal Adams. During Adams' best 3 seasons in the NFL, from 2018 to 2020, when he made 3 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pro teams with the Jets, guess who was his DB's coach? Denard Wilson. Now, why does this matter for the Commanders? Because we've got young guys in the secondary who need development. Mike Seinristil, Trey Amos, and especially Quan Martin, who's heading into the final year of his rookie deal in 2026. These guys have potential, but they need... And this is where Quinn and Peters' strategy gets brilliant. They're not just thinking about who the DC will be. They're thinking about how to build the entire defensive staff around that person. Think about it. If they hire Patrick Graham as DC, who, as I already explained, is my top pick, wouldn't it make perfect sense to bring in someone like Wilson as DB's coach? Someone with that track record, working with safeties and corners. Someone who can get the most out of the talent we already have in the secondary. Because here's the reality. David Blau just got promoted to offensive coordinator. It's going to be his first season. That means Dan Quinn might need to be more involved on the offensive side, at least early on. So what does that mean for the defense? It means Quinn needs a veteran defensive coordinator who can handle game day responsibilities without needing constant oversight. Someone with experience, and both Graham and Wilson fit that mold. They're both experienced coordinators with proven systems, capable of managing their units without needing the head coach to hold their hand. But here's where it gets interesting. What if the move isn't choosing between Graham and Wilson, but Graham calling the plays and designing the overall scheme, Wilson focusing specifically on the secondary and developing those young DBs? You see the genius in that? While other teams are scrambling to find one guy who can do it all, the Commanders could be building a staff where every coach is in the And let me add this. With the Titans' head coaching job now open, there's a high chance that staff changes are coming once they hire a new HC. That means Wilson is probably looking for a fresh start anyway. And what better place to do that than with a team that just made the playoffs, has a stable ownership and a clear direction for the future. Washington is an attractive destination for any coach who wants to win. Now, I do think we need to dig a little deeper into Wilson before locking in a final opinion. We need to understand why the Titans struggled so much in 2025. Despite their success, we need to see how his defensive philosophy meshes with what Quinn wants to do. But what's clear is this. Wilson is a coach with a strong process and a proven track record of getting the best out of his players, especially in the secondary. And for a team like the Commanders, with young, that's extremely valuable. Blau's promotion impacts this DC search in a way most people aren't thinking about. It's not just about finding someone who can draw up a good scheme. It's about finding someone who can handle their side of the ball independently, while Quinn... And now that the Rooney Rule is satisfied, the clock is ticking. The Commanders can make an offer at any time. They can wrap this up and start building the rest of the defensive staff around their new DC. You think Quinn and Peters are taking their time by accident? Methodical, making sure every piece fits before making their move. And when they finally announce their new DC, whether it's Graham, Wilson, or someone else, you'll see why it was worth the wait. Because this isn't just about hiring a coordinator. It's about building a complete staff that can take this defense from where it was in 2025 to where it needs. And with the candidates they're considering and the process they're following, I believe we're in good hands. News 3, the first interview with Denard Wilson. Details that matter. Let's rewind to the beginning of this Denard Wilson story, because there's some key context we need to understand about how we got here and what it means. The first time we heard about Wilson's interview with the Commanders was through Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, who reported that Washington completed the interview this past Saturday. That made him the third confirmed candidate interviewed after Patrick Graham and Joe Cullen. The timing of all this. The Commanders moved quickly after parting ways with Joe Witt earlier in the week. And that move wasn't a surprise to anyone paying attention, because it was foreshadowed when Dan Quinn took over defensive play calling mid-season. That tells you someone who can execute his defensive vision, someone who understands what he wants to build, but who can also bring their own flavor and experience to the table. And when you look at the three candidates interviewed so far, Graham, Cullen, and Wilson, you start to see a pattern. Joe Cullen, the D-line coach from the Chiefs, is known for working with elite defensive fronts. Patrick Graham brings that light box system we already broke down. And Denard Wilson has that elite track record with defensive backs. See the pattern? Quinn is looking at coaches who are special. He's not just looking for someone who can do a little bit of everything. He's looking for experts who can elevate key parts of this unit. And here's where Wilson's career gets really interesting when you zoom in. He started coaching at Maryland as a graduate assistant. After 2 years there, over time, he worked his way up through coaching roles with the Rams, Jets, Eagles, and Ravens. That's 5 different organizations before landing in Tennessee. 5 different systems, 5 different philosophies, 5 different opportunities to learn, adapt, and build his own approach. And when you look at the results, especially with defensive backs, the pattern is clear. Wilson knows how to develop talent in the secondary, no matter the system or the team. But here's what really makes me think about Wilson as a candidate. He was an internal candidate for the Eagles DC, but he didn't get it. Instead of sticking around in a lesser role, he bet on himself. He left for Baltimore for a year, then finally got his first shot as a coordinator in Tennessee. That tells me something about his character. He's not afraid to take risks to grow. He's not waiting around for handout. And when he finally got his shot as DC, he was ready. The results in his first year with the Titans back that up. Second in total yards allowed, and more importantly, third against the pass. That doesn't happen by accident in your first year as a coordinator. Then came They finished 21st in total defense and 28th in points allowed. And yeah, those numbers are going to hurt his stock. But here's the question we need to ask. How much of that was on Wilson? And how much was just the reality of a rebuilding Tennessee team? Because let me tell you, you can't just look at final stats without considering the talent, the injuries, and the overall situation. The Titans in 2025 weren't a competitive team. Their offense struggled, which constantly put the defense in bad spots. They had injury issues. Looking ahead to the future, is it fair to pin all that on Wilson? I don't think so. I think you have to look at the full picture. And here's what's most telling. Even in a tough season, Wilson kept his reputation as a top-tier DB's coach. The young player, the process was still there, even when the results weren't. That's what separates good coaches from great ones. The great ones stick to their process no matter what's going on around them. And Wilson proved that. Now the question for the Commanders is, where does Wilson fit into their plans? Or was this interview more about fulfilling the Rooney Rule and possibly considering him for another role? I'll tell you this, based on everything we've seen, the timing of the interview, the type of candidates Quinn is bringing in, I think Wilson is a legit candidate. But I also think his best fit might not be as the primary defensive coordinator. I think his maximum value to the Commanders could be as DB's coach or defensive pass game coordinator, working under someone like Patrick Graham, who can handle the overall scheme because think about what that would give Washington. Graham's light box system that frees up linebackers and puts the D-line in better spots, combined with Wilson's elite experience developing young DBs. That's a powerful combo. That's the kind of pairing that could and with Wilson likely looking for a new opportunity anyway, thanks to the coaching shakeup in Tennessee, Washington is a perfect landing spot. A young, ascending team, a star quarterback in Jaden Daniels, a stable organization with a clear direction. You don't? I think it absolutely is. This interview with Wilson, whether it leads to a DC offer or a different role on the defensive staff, shows that Quinn and Peters are being thorough in their search. They're looking at every angle, interviewing multiple candidates with different strengths, building a complete picture of... And that, more than anything else, gives me confidence that when they finally make their move, it's going to be the right one. Because after years of watching this organization make rush decisions, of seeing constant turnover with no clear plan, we finally have leadership in Quinn and Peters, precision, and making sure every piece fits before making the call. So there you have it. 3 major updates that are going to shape what this defense looks like in 2026. Patrick Graham and his light box system that could completely transform our defensive identity. The interview with Denard Wilson that satisfied the Rooney Rule and opened the door for and the details from that first interview that show just how thorough and intentional Quinn and Peters are being with this process. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Patrick Graham is the right move as defensive coordinator? Or would you rather see Denard Wilson in that role? And what do you think about the possibility of having... Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think about these candidates and how you'd build this defensive staff. Are you excited about Graham's lightbox system? Do you like Wilson's track record with DBs? Do you want to see them working together? And if you got value from this deep dive, if you learned something new about these candidates and what they could bring to the Commanders, because I promise you, tomorrow, next week, all off-season long, we're going to have more explosive updates on how this team is being built. This is the most exciting time to be a Commanders fan in years. We've got Jaden Daniels, we've got Dan Quinn and Adam Peters building something special. And you do so hit that like button if you think Graham should be our next DC. Subscribe if you want more deep analysis like this. And comment below with your thoughts on these candidates. Because this isn't just a defensive coordinator search. This is about building a defense. And you, the best fan base in the NFL, deserve to be informed every step of the way. I'll see you in the next